In 2022, a clip of some CCTV footage started making the rounds on Indonesian social media. At first glance, there's nothing special about it. A man steps in, pushing a shopping cart loaded with bags and pillows. He nods at the other man in the elevator and gives him a wide, friendly smile. He glances around. He looks completely at ease. It's a totally uneventful scene, but that's exactly what struck people once the news broke. A man had just been arrested for murdering a young woman, and a key piece of evidence was that exact clip. The friendly-looking man with the shopping cart wasn't taking out some trash. He was transporting a dead body out of the building. Today, we're digging into an event that rocked Indonesia. This is the Rudolf Tobing case. Sometimes you just want to wear a cute little dress to the gym while running errands, wherever. And honestly, I don't even remember the last time I regularly wore one. Ever since becoming a mom, it's been leggings and oversized shirts on repeat. But lately, I've been trying to put a little more effort without sacrificing comfort. So I've been reaching for these dresses from Halara a lot. So I'm going to show you what I got from Halara. This is the SoftlyZero Plush Backless Active Dress. The fabric is so soft. It has built-in shorts and, of course, they have pockets. It looks comfortable enough to wear all day, but still looks like you tried. And this one is the SoftlyZero Airy Backless Twisted Cool Touch Dress. Lightweight, breathable, cool touch fabric, great for warmer weather. The back detail makes it feel a little dressier without being fussy. And this is the SoftlyZero Airy Unique 2-in-1 Pocket Mini Dress, probably the easiest grab and go of the three. Same built-in shorts, same pockets, same cool touch fabric. One thing I really think is cool, these are part of the Halara Circle, where they actually use customer feedback to improve future versions. So what started as a simple active dress has evolved over the years with features like pet-friendly fabric, backless styles, easy-peasy built-in shorts, tummy control shaping, and upgraded support, all based on what customers actually wanted. And this isn't my first Halara rodeo. Almost all of my jeans and pants are from Halara because they are so insanely stretchy. Basically, leggings pretending to be real pants. Size down though, they have a lot of give. Once you try them, it's going to be really hard to go back to regular ones. So links are below if you want to check anything out, and you can join the Halara Circle there too if you want to weigh in on future products. And honestly, I cannot recommend Halara enough. I am literally obsessed. So if you've been on the fence, just go for it. I don't think you will ever regret it. On October 17th, 2022, at around 9:30 p.m., two men were driving down Kalimalang Street in Bekasi, Indonesia, when something started feeling off with one of their tires. They pulled over under the Becakayu toll road and realized they had a flat tire. It was late, the road was pretty empty, so they figured they'd just change it themselves. While they were working, they noticed a big plastic bag sitting off to the side of the road. And honestly, the underside of a highway is a pretty popular dumping ground in that area. People leave construction waste, old furniture, all kinds of stuff. So the two of them assumed it was trash. Maybe they'd moved it out of the way so it wasn't blocking the shoulder. But when they got closer, the horror hit them all at once. There were human toes sticking out of the bag. The police were called. Officers arrived, secured the area, and examined the body. It was a young woman in her 30s. She had injuries on her face and strangulation marks on her neck, but they didn't yet know who she was. Naturally, a dead body on the side of a busy road would be big news. But what horrified the people of Indonesia the most was who killed her. Christian Rudolf Martahi Tobing. The man wasn't a violent criminal. He wasn't the type who would make you keep your guard up. He was a devout Christian. A family man, a therapist who worked with children with special needs, a young pastor at a local church. So how did we get here? And as we always do, before we get to his actions, let's learn a little bit more about the man himself. Rudolf came from an upper middle class family. On the outside, everything looked great, a respectable, well-off family, the whole picture-perfect deal. But behind closed doors, things could get ugly. Rudolf was beaten by his parents whenever he did something they didn't approve of. And from a young age, Rudolf learned to swallow whatever he was feeling just to keep the peace. There was no version of expressing himself that didn't end badly. So he grew into someone who didn't know how to let his emotions out in normal, healthy ways. They built up until they exploded. Academically, though, he thrived. He was sharp, focused, the kind of student teachers paid attention to. And from pretty early on, he'd been drawn to theology. He took a theology class back in high school. After graduation, he headed to the United States for college, planning to continue along that path. But he never finished. Immigration deported him for a visa violation, so he came back to Indonesia, picked his studies back up, and got his theology degree in 2015. After that, he leaned even harder into his faith. He became a devoted Christian, threw himself into church work, and was later ordained as a young pastor at Kasih Allah Ministry Church in Bogor. He was also working as a therapist for children with special needs, a job that takes serious patience, the ability to read people, and a lot of warmth. And by every account, he had all of that. From day one, the church community loved him. He showed up for people who needed help. He was great with the kids he worked with, patient, playful, willing to go the extra mile. Just an all-round good guy, soft-spoken, sweet with children. And yet, under all of that, something dark was lurking, just buried deep where nobody could see it. Through his church work, Rudolf became part of a tight group of friends. There was a guy named Hardiman, another friend named Shinta, and a woman named Ade Yunia Rizabani, who went by Icha. They weren't just casual acquaintances. They were the kind of friends who showed up for each other. They worked together, prayed together, hung out together. Rudolf had started getting into religious content creation, podcasts, social media posts, that kind of thing, and his friends pitched in to help. Icha in particular was involved on the production side, and the two of them regularly collaborated on content. So from the outside, it looked like a healthy, supportive community. A pastor surrounded by good people who believed in what he was doing. What that community didn't know was that something had been quietly eating at Rudolf for years. Back in 2015, Rudolf and Hardiman went into business together. It didn't go well. Somewhere along the way, it ran into problems and fell apart, and Rudolf put all of it on Hardiman. The friendship blew up, but because Rudolf had never learned any healthy way to express anger, none of it came out. Not in a fight, not in a falling out conversation, not in anything. He just bottled it up. By 2022, he'd been carrying this grudge for years, and somewhere along the way, Hardiman had stopped being someone he considered a former friend, and started being someone he was intensely obsessed with. Rudolf called him his nemesis, not someone he disliked, his actual enemy. So imagine how he felt scrolling through social media and seeing photos of Shinta and Icha with Hardiman, the people closest to him, hanging out with the one person he hated most. To most people, it could be slightly upsetting, but ultimately something you'd let go. But for Rudolf, it was a betrayal. They knew he and Hardiman were on bad terms. They knew, and they stayed close to Hardiman anyway. That's when revenge stopped being a mere fantasy and started becoming a plan. Hardiman was the main target, the one Rudolf had been thinking about for years, but he wanted Shinta dead too. As far as he was concerned, she'd picked Hardiman's side, and that put her on the list. The plan was to get to all three of them eventually, Hardiman, Shinta, and Icha. His first move was to test whether he could even draw Hardiman out. He messaged Hardiman's younger sibling on social media, claiming he wanted to give Hardiman a surprise. The sibling gave him the cold shoulder. No response, no help, no opening. And around the same time, it became clear neither Hardiman nor Shinta was going to be reachable when he was ready to act. Hardiman was in Bali, Shinta was in Semarang. Two of the people he wanted dead weren't even in the city. But Icha was. She was in Jakarta, and she trusted him. She was already involved in his content work, which gave him an obvious reason to meet up. So the order flipped. Icha became the one he would actually get to. His first instinct was to outsource the killing. He went hunting online for a hitman. And naturally, it wasn't easy. He mostly found sketchy sites that just funneled him through endless ads. When he finally stumbled upon what looked like a legitimate site, he discovered that the price tag was way out of his budget. And so he decided to do things himself. He went all in on prep. He scoped out hotels all over Jakarta, looking for one with as little CCTV monitoring as possible. Somewhere he could commit murder without leaving a video trail. And he found a spot in South Jakarta first, but when he showed up, every room was booked. So he found another place, a daily rental unit at Green Pramuka City Apartments in central Jakarta. This one was perfect. He booked it for just one night. Then he continued with his preparations. He Googled how to kill someone quietly so the neighbors wouldn't hear. He bought a pack of cable ties to restrain Icha. He worked out a scenario that he would let her to tie herself up willingly. No struggle, no noise. And that whole time, he was still a pastor, still teaching vulnerable children and still smiling at everyone who had no idea what lay behind that smile. On October 17th, 2022, he reached out to Icha and asked if she'd help him film a promotional video for a podcast sponsor. Since she was already involved in his content work, she said yes, no questions asked. They arranged to record that same day. He walked her through the promo bit that was supposedly for a health necklace. The concept was simple. Icha would play a kidnapping victim with her hands and feet bound with cable ties, while Rudolf would play the kidnapper with a toy gun. The twist was that her health necklace would magically give her the strength to break free of the ties. A little corny, sure, but not something that would set off alarm bells if your friend proposed it to you. Once they got inside the room early that afternoon, he got right into preparing the scene. He fiddled with a camera, pretending to find the right angle, and then he tied her hands and feet. And they did a practice run. Then he tied her up again and revealed the truth. The entire promotional video was a lie. Icha was confused and scared. She struggled to get herself free. But this just angered Rudolf. He slapped her across the face, hard, and told her to be quiet. Icha went silent, and then everything Rudolf had been holding back for several years came pouring out. About Hardiman, about Shinta, about how betrayed he felt by all of them. While she was still tied up, he picked up her phone. He pulled up her mobile banking and made her give him the PIN. Then transferred 19.5 million rupiah out of her account, roughly 1,200 US dollars. The money didn't go to Rudolf directly. It went to an account belonging to his wife, Christina Martha. Then he made Icha call her family. He had her ask them to send another 10 million rupiah to her own account, which they did with no idea what was actually happening on the other end of that call. Their daughter was tied up in an apartment with a man who'd kill her in the next few minutes, and they were sending him money. Then he gagged her with cloth and sealed her mouth with black duct tape, and then he walked out of the bedroom. He sat down in the apartment's living room in front of the TV, and he just thought. Police later said he took this time to consider whether she actually had to die. He went back in, he asked her if he let her go, would she scream when they got to the car. Icha shook her head, but Rudolf didn't believe her. He told her she was lying, that she'd already agreed to forgive him once and was still planning to go to the police, that the moment she got a chance, she'd turn him in. After my wife and kids, he said, you guys are all I have, but you don't see me that way. He threw her down onto the bed and then he strangled her until she stopped breathing. He checked, pressing a finger under her nose to make sure she was actually gone. Then reality kicked back in. He had to do something with the body. He'd brought a big plastic bag with him to the apartment. Nobody's ever confirmed whether he'd pack it specifically for this or for some other reason. But at that moment, it had a clear purpose. He stuffed her body in the bag, sealed it with black duct tape, hauled it into a shopping cart, and covered it with pillows. He also went through her things and grabbed everything that was worth taking. Laptop, phone, ATM card, cash, gold jewelry. Then he wheeled the shopping cart out into the hallway and toward the elevator at 7:25 p.m. He was beaming. There was another person already in the elevator when he got in, and Rudolf gave him a bright, friendly smile too. He looked like he'd just done something that made him happier than he'd ever been. No one would have ever guessed he was using that cart to transport the body of one of his best friends. Rudolf then drove the body out to Pondok Gede in his own car and dumped it under the Becakayu toll road. That's where she was found just 2 hours later, the body in the bag, the toes sticking out, the police arriving. The investigation kicked off right away, but figuring out who'd done it was tough at first. Most of Icha's personal stuff was gone, which made identification harder. Investigators noted the injuries to her face and the strangulation marks on her neck. Once they had managed to identify her, the police started piecing together who'd seen her last. And a name came up, Rudolf Tobing. Her church friend, someone she'd known for years, someone she'd trusted enough to walk into an empty apartment with. And so the police started tracking his movements. Unaware that the police were already onto him, Rudolf was trying to collect as much money as he could. At around 6 a.m., he went to a Bank Mandiri ATM on Jalan Jati Makmur and transferred another 11.2 million rupiah from Icha's account to his own. Then he drove to a pawn shop in Jatiwaringin, Pondok Gede. That's where police caught up to him around 9:30 a.m. He was there trying to sell Icha's laptop. Later, it turned out he was planning to use the money from her belongings to pay someone to kill Hardiman, since he hadn't been able to afford a hitman on his own. A day or two later, 2 CCTV clips from the day of the murder leaked online. The first showed Rudolf and Icha riding the elevator together earlier in the afternoon. Nothing dramatic, just Rudolf walking out of the elevator and Icha walking out behind him, following his lead with no idea that she wouldn't be leaving the building alive. The second clip was the one that went viral. The shopping cart, the bags, the smile. There was nothing in his body language that read killer, but the evidence was right there in the shopping cart. The video got reposted hundreds of times across social media and hit Indonesian TV news within days. People started calling him the smiling killer. And when the details came out, the man in the video was a young pastor and a therapist for special needs children. People had no idea what to make of it. Nobody who'd known Rudolf could understand it either. The kind-hearted, soft-spoken guy from church was the murderer. The man who worked to help vulnerable children. In the interrogation, the whole story came out. The grudge against Hardiman, the years of accumulated rage, the fact that Icha was never even supposed to be the one who died. Hardiman was the person Rudolf actually wanted to kill, had been wanting to kill, and Shinta was on the list too. But Hardiman was in Bali that day, Shinta was in Semarang, neither one was reachable. Icha was the only person in the friend group Rudolf could actually get into a room with, and she trusted him enough to follow him into an empty apartment. So she became the one he killed. The plan after Icha was to use the money he took from her accounts to hire someone to finish Hardiman and Shinta. And regarding the smile caught on CCTV, Rudolf said it was a smile of relief. The burden was finally off him. He didn't feel guilty because, to him, this was how he was going to reach his goal and let out everything he'd been holding in for years. The police ordered a psychiatric evaluation. Rudolf wasn't acting how a person who just murdered their friend was expected to act. He didn't show guilt. He didn't show regret. He told investigators he felt satisfied. He felt like this mission was complete. Naturally, that raised questions about whether something was clinically wrong with him. But the evaluation results show that he was neither a psychopath nor a sociopath. There was no diagnosable disorder at all to explain what he'd done. He was just a man carrying so much accumulated rage that he ended up killing a friend over it. The deeper investigators dug, though, the more they kept coming back to his childhood. The abuse, the suppressed emotions, the lifetime of swallowing what he felt. None of it excused his actions, but it was considered to be an explanation. He was legally and mentally sound, fully aware of what he'd done, and fit to stand trial. The trial kicked off at Central Jakarta District Court on March 6, 2023, and ran for about 4 months. The whole time, Indonesian social media couldn't stop talking about it. The smiling killer, the pastor, the shopping cart, the contrast between his Sunday self and what he'd done in that apartment. On July 13, 2023, Chief Judge Adeng Abdul Kohar handed down the verdict: 20 years in prison for premeditated murder. Exactly what the prosecutors had requested. It's the maximum fixed-term sentence available in Indonesia. The only stronger sentences are life imprisonment and the death penalty. The aggravating factors the judges named were that he'd killed a friend he'd known for years. The act was premeditated, and it had unsettled the public. The mitigating factors were that he had no prior record, he had family dependents, he gave a full confession that helped the trial move along, and he displayed polite courtroom conduct. Icha's older brother, Destiawan, cried in court. He told reporters afterward that Rudolf deserved the death penalty. "He should get the same thing my sister got," he said, even though that doesn't actually pay it back. He added that even though he was disappointed, he'd respect the ruling. And Rudolf, when the judge read out 20 years, he smiled. Rudolf is still in prison. There's no public record of whether he ever filed an appeal. Life moved on the way it does. But the case still remains firmly in the public's memory. His story keeps getting brought up in Indonesian conversations about suppressed rage, about what childhood abuse can grow into when nobody addresses it, about how completely you can hide one version of yourself behind another. Here was a man everyone thought was kind and devout. A man whose congregation trusted him, whose students adored him, whose friend group treated him like family. And underneath all of that was someone capable of several years of quiet, focused hatred, culminating in the murder of a completely innocent woman. The footage is still online, it still gets reposted, and people still can't quite reconcile the man in the elevator with the man at church, the one his congregation loved, the one his students adored, the one Icha trusted enough to follow into an empty apartment. So, what do you think about this case? Let me know in the comments. And that is all for today. Thank you for watching.